After young director Ashwin Kumar's first film, Road to Ladakh, got picked up at the Cannes Film Festival, he was elated. But running at 48 minutes, it was way too long to be accepted by any short film festivals. Putting aside his disappointment, Ashwin decided to make another low-budget film, hoping to avoid the problems and mistakes that occurred on the first. Filmed in the Rajasthan desert, it's a story about two divided communities briefly united by a little terrorist. With an inexperienced cast ranging from 10 to 75 years old, Ashwin's directing skills will be tested to the full, while the crew must achieve a rapid-fire 40 different shots per day, every day for 6 days. So when the film's camera breaks down and their musicians get arrested, a fire burns down the tent housing all their film stock, and cheerful crowds of onlookers make an impossible amount of noise. Tensions rise between different members of the crew. This is the making of Little Terrorist. Gathering his mix of Indian and European crew through filmmakers' internet websites, Ashwin brought more than 15 people out to the Rajasthani desert on little more than hopes of adventure and a story based on real-life events.
I read a newspaper article which basically was about this little boy who had crossed over the border, and amongst a lot of PR and hoopla was sent back by the Prime Minister of India to Pakistan. And that I thought was a beautiful metaphor to be shown through a little child's eyes, and innocence of seeing the ironies of this hate relationship we have with our neighbors.
3, 2, 1.
It's the penultimate day before shooting starts. One of the set dressers and a team of helpers are creating the set for the opening scene, the border between India and Pakistan.
First we had decided to have the two border lines, and this we thought we are not going to make it out of steel, we thought we were going to make it out of concrete, pillars. And I knew that for this you need about 3 days. And I must say that the workers were really quick, because it was in the morning, they told us more or less where to do the fence, and they built this fence, let's say, in 3 hours. It was amazing.
The watchtower is nearly finished and the production ready to begin. But just 4 weeks earlier, it was an entirely different story. Ashwin still had no lights, no camera, no cast, and no crew. Ashwin begins to audition some of the minor characters.
Hands up, man. Don't move, don't move.
Okay. I don't want you to take out the gun.
He knows the hardest part is finding someone really convincing to play the title role.
I wanted to find a kid who has seen life a little bit. If I had to have my main lead protagonist convincingly play a kid who's playing cricket near a minefield in a border miles away from anywhere, he would have to walk like that, he'd have to behave like that, he'd have to talk like that. He'd have to have some life experience in his eyes,
He decided to visit the Salam Balak Trust, a school specially set up for orphans and street kids, where they are given various types of training, including theatre and acting.
I went out there and with a camera, and I interviewed all the kids between the ages of 8 and say 15. Okay, very nice.
With a short list of 3, he still hasn't decided on who would be best for the role of Jamal. Ashwin is still unsure. It's between 2, Khalid and Salim. He asked them to act out the final scene of the film, saying farewell, a moment needing to be full of emotion and sadness. He's made up his mind. Salim will play the lead in Little Terrorists. It'll be his first ever major role. Ashvin hopes he can handle the pressure.
It's wonderful how this kid just sort of singled himself out in his marvelously spontaneous performance. Because you start narrowing these kids down to the last 3 or 4. And then this guy, I'd ask him to do it 6 times, he'd do it exactly the same way. Then I'd ask him to change it, he'd change it. I'd ask him to do something new, he'd give me something new. This kid has it all.
As well as Salim, Ashvin also casts Sushil, an amateur actor in Delhi theatre, and Meghna, a 16-year-old from one of Delhi's most prestigious schools. Back in Rajasthan, there's less than 24 hours to go. While the production team led by Vicky Borage are making final adjustments to the main location of the film, a house they have built over the last few days, Ashvin and the actors are desperately practicing the words of the script, written in a Rajasthani dialect which none of them speak.
It's the first time I'm hearing these the local dialect being spoken by the actors. I think the kid is very good. He's going to pick it up very quickly. The old man is also, he's got about 30 years experience on stage, so that shouldn't be a problem. It's the girl I'm slightly concerned about. She doesn't have much experience on stage or in film like that. She's completely raw.
But to be entirely convincing to an Indian audience, they must also adopt the mannerisms and body language of the local Rajasthan villagers.
हाँ, वो थोड़ा अलग है. हम अपने चलते हैं एक तरीका है जो चलने का.
The style of walking and sitting and talking and the expressions, it is entirely different from the a person who is living in city or a person is in a village. Right now, Rani, she's sitting with the village girls. She's just watching how these girls, they are wearing and their gesture, their posture, how they laugh, how they act, how they do the movements.
Her way of walking and talking and behaving was very urban. And I felt that she would have to start imbibing a lot of this sort of roughness, gruff roughness that these women, these very tough women, out there have. So they have that guttural sort of way of speaking. And, At the same time, retain her femininity and the sort of awkward gangliness that I wanted to bring out in her, sort of a teenager wanting to become a woman.
Every time Ashwin would say, just be yourself and don't try to act, just do it. I didn't kind of get that the first few times, but slowly with his kind of direction, I've sort of learned that you need to feel it and get into that position before you can do it.
When you look down, I lose you.
Having worked hard on the script, Ashvin puts the 3 actors through a physical theatre exercise to get over any self-consciousness they might feel about performing in front of an audience of onlookers. He makes them act out various animals while reciting their lines.
सरकार पटने में हमारी जान के लोग रह गए हैं. जो भी आया होगा, थाने में वो जानता होगा.
The first day of shooting has arrived. Word has spread to the local villagers, and many have decided to come and watch, dreaming of seeing a Bollywood star in action. Crowds of onlookers can often cause problems, slowing a production down, something the crew of Little Terrorists can ill afford. Swiss director of photography Marcus Hirsch and first assistant director Arjun talk with Ashvin about the opening shots.
You read the script and you have the first impression of the script, these images. I try to always to remember these images because that's what I find the most interesting. And then you try to create moods which help obviously to tell the story.
Marcus is the only person to have worked with Ashvin before. Jason Wingrove is the camera assistant and focus puller. Robert Butler, storyboard artist and continuity.
Is it UE or EU?
Sarah Tierney, associate producer. Despite the language barrier, they will have to work together with the local Indian crews if the film is to be a success.
Yeah, I mean, normally have your own crew that you work with, you hardly have to say anything. so on a situation.
Done quicker.
Yeah. Here it sort of explains something, and then it gets mistranslated, and something else happens.
It is a complicated project. You know, it's a big crew. People are coming a long distance. We're in the middle of nowhere. We're staying in a big camp, and you know, shooting in a very remote location.
What is this place called?
Middle of nowhere.
To give the scene atmosphere, they are using a large fan powered by a tractor to blow sand across the frame, but it makes communication doubly difficult.
Can we switch on the fan? Alexandra! Man them down! Hey! Sit down now, sit! Sit! Action!
In his first ever lead role, 10-year-old Salim knows he has to put in a good performance.
मैं सोचता हूँ कि इस फिल्म को मेरे पर ही सारा डिपेंड करता है। जमाल का जो कैरेक्टर है बहुत मैं फीलिंग करके निकालना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि अगर ये फीलिंग वो है तो मैं ही फ्लॉप हो जाऊँगा।
It's halfway through the first day, and they are already falling behind schedule.
Chalo, safai! Safai!
Schedule going?
Yeah.
Man, we are at least 40 minutes behind.
Really?
40 minutes behind because of communication.
In the script, Jamal is so frightened at being on the wrong side of the border, he wets himself. On a film like Little Terrorist, where the budget is small and props are often few and far between, shots like this have to be handled in an ingenious way.
What is required is for a convincing puddle of piddle to appear on his feet. We had a tube that was inserted into his pajama, being held in a makeshift bottle, which was taped up to this tube, which was too thick, as we found out after the first two experiments. So we had to sort of reduce the nozzle of it so that it would look like a convincing stream of pee. And you have to jump Arjun is holding this thing up, this contraption, and he's squeezing it just enough to let enough water come out so that, and of course this takes a few tries, so this poor guy's leg is completely drenched. And by the time we're ready to take the shot, his trouser is wet. So then people have to start fanning it and start drying the damn trouser. And we're going into this whole thing to get the damn piddle out in the right way. Okay, no, on this side. Running before him. And of course, the biggest problem was that how do we get Arjun and his apparatus out of the way in time, that by the time the camera pans around and he's running off into the distance, Arjun is not there anymore. You know, and that was a timing coordination that we had to get absolutely perfectly right.
Roll camera. Water. Action. I think the water just splashed like a Coca-Cola bottle.
So this is the joys of making movies. I mean, what looks so simple on the screen really takes a long, long time to create.
It's 5:15 p.m. and the light is nearly gone. There may just be time to do one more shot, a handheld take of Jamal running through the minefield.
I mean, we have a hill to contend with this problem.
No, it's gone. Sun's gone completely now.
They are behind schedule and have failed to finish the scene.
The day was too short. We had the race against the sun, and once the sun goes down, the contrast changes. Somewhere you have to pull the plug and say, well, that's it. I can't match it anymore because I don't have the lights for it. and then you have a lot of faces looking at you because they think, well, it's still bright, let's shoot.
The crew know that with a budget of only £15,000, they cannot afford to overrun. And besides, the camera, which is being borrowed, has to be back in Delhi 5 days from now, or the production will have to pay a substantial fine. They will have to work faster tomorrow. Despite working at top speed, it took the entire second day to finish the minefield scene.
घबराओ, घबराओ, घबराओ! भूत आ रहा है सामने तुम्हारा! बड़ा भूत! देखो उसको! कहाँ है वो? इधर!
Now the cast and crew are on their way to the second location, a disused quarry. They have to recce the site, agree the camera positions, discuss the shot list and blocking, and hope all goes well. But Ashwin is deeply concerned about the mood of the crew.
By and large, the tone and the momentum of the entire film on the third day somehow just slacked. First thing I started doing was to asking for a time check. So every time I remembered, I used to call for a time check, and somebody would look at their watch and say 12 o'clock or 12:30 or 12:45 or whatever it was. So everybody on the set knew that if we didn't get out of there by, say, half an hour, 15 minutes, whatever it was, that it would impact the next shot, etc. So I think then everyone started getting together.
So the POV shot is somewhere.
But there is now an additional problem. To Ashwin's horror, a huge crowd of onlookers has turned up at the quarry.
7-8 villages around this area immediately found out that there was a film shoot going on and got dressed in their Sunday best. All of them left their agricultural tools for the day, got into several tractors and trailers and arrived on the set of our film to witness this film shooting. There were some 250 people lining the lip of this minefield quarry. All the kids, their mums, dressed in their Sunday best, coming out to watch this event. And my concern was at that point, knowing how fragile mob mentality can be, that if one of those guys took a toss and fell off, the people who would get lynched would be us, since we were the ones who were in some way obliquely responsible. So my first instinct was to go and tell VP that, look, you got to tell them in your own language that they are not to fall off.
The noise made by the 250-strong crowd is going to make sound recordist Roland's life much harder.
It's quite incredible shooting in this area because there were so many people would come and watch. You'd find that, you'd look over and there'd be, 20-odd people sitting up a tree watching the whole thing being shot. You'd have the animals that would interrupt, you'd have camels, all sorts of things that would just decide to start making their respective noises just as the take was called.
Okay, go for take silence, please!
Cut. Sorry, Roland, I was told there was no sound.
Apart from the sound problem, Ashwin is worried how 75-year-old Sushil will handle his first scene.
The difficulty I had with Sushil was threefold. Firstly, he had this huge baggage of working in this melodramatic mode of acting, or almost play acting, a very stilted dialogue delivery and lots of unnecessary pausing and all that kind of stuff that we see on Indian television and Indian theatre and in Bollywood, in fact. So I had to sort of strip all that away from him and keep reminding him not to do that. See, because this guy, just remember, his frame of reference is Bollywood at its best. He hasn't seen anything outside this world of hyper make-believe. The second problem I had with him was his lapse of concentration.
Hey, ruko!
From take to take, he would forget what he had to do.
कहाँ से आ रहे हो? किधर जा रहे हो?
मैं ई गांव का हूँ सरकार, गांव को मास्टर.
My job was to then become his concentration for him, as well as to keep paring him down and getting just the essence of his performance. And I think, like if you look at the shot where he's taking off his turban.
दूसरी ओर से ये पारा है कहीं?
हाँ, तुम्हारे जैसा ही लग रहा था.
In India, taking off a turban is hugely symbolic. It means that you're actually giving obeisance to somebody else. You're putting your turban at someone's feet means that you've surrendered. It comes from that whole sort of tradition of surrendering and all of that stuff. So a man's pride is sort of ensconced in his turban.
दूर था वो, ठीक से नहीं दिखा. मुझे तो लगता है तुम ही हो वो.
And my only actual acting direction to him was dignified. It should be dignified. You're a proud person. but because these people have asked you this question, you have to do this. And he started feeling almost an arrogant swagger of an actor when they're in front of a camera and are playing it out. And the camera has to wait for them to do things, you know. I mean, there's a sort of arrogance in that as well. And I think he started feeling that. And the moment he started feeling that, he started acting.
5-10 मिनट पहले बिठने को ही जाते हो, देखो।
तो पहले क्यों नहीं बोला तुमने?
मैं थारे अठीने आवे का कारण को नहीं पूछूं, पण बे फिर आवेला, तू अठे से चला जा।
The quarry scene is a wrap, but the day isn't over yet. That evening they plan to make up lost time by shooting the final scene of the film, which takes place at night. But first, the gang of helpers must prepare the location. The scene involves a treacherous journey back through the minefield into Pakistan. Jamal and Rani must try to keep safe by following in Bola's footsteps. But once again, Roland is struggling with the ambient sound.
The situation is thus: you've got a scene, it's the final scene, it's the accumulation of, quite a lot of tension, quite a lot of emotion throughout the film. At the absolute pinnacle, at the absolute peak of it, what we have in the background is a bunch of randy dogs, a bunch of women getting married to the wrong men, and goats bleating, electric lights humming, locals chattering away about nothing. We have an absolute cantankerous cacophony of awfulness.
To add to the troubles, Ashvin has just learnt that Meghna, who is about to do her first scene and seems particularly nervous, forgot to tell him in her audition that she has in fact never acted before in her life.
It was unfair for me to throw her into the deep end, make her do the last shot of the film first. And I think she was reasonably nervous at that point. But since I wanted her to do pretty little, I think she just winged it. And it took her a couple of days to start getting used to the idea of this camera facing her and needing a lot of reiteration as to what she was doing right or wrong. So I'm going to run you through 1, 2 and number 3. And just relax. Relax. No tension. Can you have silence on the set, please? Silence on the set, please.
It's very intimidating and it's very, very, very scary at times because it's just something I'm not used to, in the sense having cameras at you and just like sound and everybody's all quiet and you're like in the spotlight.
Action!
You have to kind of forget everything around you and all the people and just completely concentrate on what you need to reproduce and what you need to do.
But literally, as they are going for a take, news of a disaster arrives, which means it very nearly becomes the final shot of the entire production. In the camp, one of the tents has caught fire and is rapidly burning to cinders. And worse still, it's the tent where they are keeping all of their film stock. If it is destroyed, the film is over.
Tent is burnt down, yeah. We had a fire. Film stock was inside there. All our film stock. All of it was in there. We've rescued it, and we've rescued all Jason's belongings also, but as you can see, the tent is down and it's still smoldering.
Back on location, the accident has deeply affected the mood of the cast and crew. They know they must carry on with the scene or they will fall further behind schedule, but spirits are very subdued.
And action!
भागिन तो गई अब गेंद लिया देनी पड़ेगा ये अपने मस्ती से नहीं गेंद दिलाओ जे मारी माँ की आवाज है मैंने जाना चाहिए
Despite the night's disasters, the crew know they need to rally round and get the film finished. At 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, they start shooting in the village. It's time to shoot the main location of the film, Bola and Rani's house. Although the weather is good, the light is continually changing, making Marcus's job of lighting the set a constant headache.
We'll keep it like that. We keep it simple. Just take it away.
With a complex mix of interior and exterior shots to achieve, it's going to be a real challenge.
This sequence in the house has been the biggest challenge for me because I had to match the exterior, interior with all the different positions of the sun and with some very limited gear.
Lights drop.
They are shooting a scene at the very heart of the story. Bola and Rani must choose whether or not to hide the young Muslim boy from the Indian soldiers.
Roll sound. Good girl.
कुड़े कई काम है मास्टर जी बोलिए अठे आवे तई
अब आ रही आया है माँ इधर बैठ
The scene develops with a crucial hair-cutting sequence, but there's a problem. Ashvin wanted to use a stand-in for the close-ups of Jamal's head being shaved. But because of a specific Hindu belief, Arjun has been unable to find anyone willing to be the stand-in.
I was under the impression that we're going to get a dummy person who will be lined up, who will be willing to get his head tonsured in front of camera. It's not worked out, so... Because in the Hindu religion, you don't shave your head till your father expires. That's a symbol of... basically, no one's going to do it for that reason.
Eventually, they find someone willing to have a free haircut, even if he refuses to have his head completely shaved. Marcus is able to get a few close-ups, but that means the rest of the scene will have to be performed by Jamal.
Roll sound.
They've successfully shaved another scene off their list. Now it's time for a complete reset of the location and a race against the sun to finish the final few shots of the day. While Ashvin is feeling the pressure, his young lead is taking it all in his stride.
Salim is just this completely most charming, amazing kid ever. He's just so cheerful and that his whole attitude towards life and enjoying it. I think I've learned a lot from him.
जमाल की एक्टिंग लाजवाब है पूछो नहीं मैं एज ए फादर अपने बेटे के हिसाब से जो है मैं
But just when everything seems to be going well, the unthinkable happens. The camera gets dropped and seems to be broken. If dirt has got into the film magazine, the last scene, including the haircut, will have to be reshot.
This went straight into the mud.
It's a nervous wait while one of the camera guys loads a new roll of film into the magazine. Fortunately, the new mag is okay. It's meant a half-hour delay, but with huge relief, the shoot can go on. But fatigue and frustration are making tempers frayed.
Shh! 12 चुप 2 मिनट चुप हो जाओ Thank you, Marcus. And stand by, Roland. Roll sound. Silence. Action.
At the beginning of that scene, it should feel like everything is hunky-dory, and they're laughing, and he's mimicking the sort of joke that he did earlier, etc. But soon after, within 5-7 seconds of the scene playing out, again they're faced with a new dilemma. This boy breaks his bread and puts it on the man's plate. And then the little boy doesn't understand why they're throwing all that food away, so he says, "Give it to me if you don't want to eat it."
मारो पेट भर चुका है इन्हें ले
आपा फेंक मत, मैं खा लूँगा अगर चाचा ने नहीं चाहे.
She was so against him coming into a house and touching him, etc. You have to have sort of an arc of acceptance. So the food eating scene is a sort of milestone along that arc. Cut. Okay.
Sound. Sound was fine. That's it.
Yeah, good to me.
It's been a long and difficult day on set. But with less than 24 hours till the camera has to be back in Delhi, Ashvin and Marcus know that if they want to finish the film, they have to prioritise the scenes essential to telling the story. It's the final day. There are just 11 hours remaining to get all the missing shots of the film.
Action.
First they must finish the scenes around the house. Then when a group of traditional Indian musicians arrive, they can shoot the very final scene.
A lot of the compositions that I have are peculiarly sort of constructed. There are walls running in the center of the frame. It gives a great sense of what is outside, what is accepted, who is accepted and who is not accepted. I wanted Jamal's face and his whole reaction to transcend the pettiness of these two people inside.
I like it. Rewind it, please. I like it very much. Yeah, because you were always going for without the reaction thing, so it worked for you.
No, he's reacting in that cut, in that one.
Yeah.
While the crew make busy setting up the next shot, news arrives about the troupe of musicians.
Been waiting for 2 hours for the musicians. They got arrested this morning.
You got arrested?
Yeah.
In a bizarre parallel with the story of Little Terrorists, the troupe of musicians has been arrested on suspicion of being from Pakistan. Fortunately, the line producer VP manages to pull some strings.
And they're supposed to reach here at 10 o'clock, but they missed the bus in morning. When they missed the bus, they called me. I said, you stay there on bus stand, I'll organize a car for you to reach here. By the time car reached in between, they were sitting there, so one cop came and asked, who are you, from where? Because their language is same like a Pakistan border people. So they took them in police station. Then again I posted the police people. I have some connections, so they allowed them to go.
It's 2 p.m. and time is running out on the shoot. They know the camera has to be on its way to Delhi in just 3 hours' time. At last, the musicians make it to the set.
Come here, quickly. Okay, Jamal, position.
Let's do this shot. What they're singing is that you're welcome in my country. Of course, that song is sung in a very different way. It's like a lover, a woman calling out to her prince and saying, you're welcome to come into my country, which is come into my room, come into my house. It sort of has naughty connotations. But just that one line, I think can be adapted and used in this context where you're saying, where the little boy who's walking past is singing and saying, you're welcome to my country. I think it works very well with the film. And so immediately after this scene of confusion and non-understanding, there's this music. And it just goes, it passes by, it's just a moment, And in that moment, all barriers are broken down, everything becomes a melting pot again. music bridges gaps. The kids' mood is lifted from a non-comprehending despondence to joy and happiness. I think it's going to be a tearjerker. I hope it is. I've always wanted to make one.
After 5.5 days filming, they've got all the shots in the can, and the camera is safely on its way back to Delhi. As the sun sets, it's time to pack away the camp.
You have a long setup and everyone's tired or cold, and then you have frustrations, but then you see in the video assist, you see the playback and it just looks so good. And even on that rubbish video assist that we have, it looks so good.
What I saw through the camera, I hope it's going to look alright, and I think in terms of performance it's quite good.
When you're on the scenes acting, you need to put everything of yours, just completely be in this one character, and that's the whole idea of feeling behind acting. I think it's going to stick with me, yeah.
Just to meet all the people and that. I mean, it's just amazing to work with different crews and see how different people work in different countries.
It's been a really good learning experience for everyone, I think. And I think it's really good how well it has actually worked, given the language barrier. But it's worked well.
Today we found the rhythm. Everybody's really working hard and very quick. Today was brilliant.
In the context of a 5.5-day shoot, the kind of budget we were working with, making this film under £15,000, I think it was quite an achievement. The fact that the film has turned out superlatively. And I think Little Terrorist delivers a very powerful story within a short piece of time.